It's late at night, the world is quiet, and for once you're not distracted by your phone, the TV, or the endless stream of noise. It's just you and your thoughts. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, a memory slips in. Maybe it's the sting of something cruel someone once said. Maybe it's a mistake that still makes your stomach knot. Or maybe it's a moment you secretly wish you could go back and relive, even if only for a second. Your chest tightens, the air feels heavier. It's as if a ghost from your past has pulled up a chair beside you. That's the thing about the past. It knows how to sneak into the present, uninvited, and suddenly you're not just remembering it, you're reliving it. What many people on a spiritual path eventually discover is that clinging to the past is like dragging a heavy suitcase through every doorway of your life. You think you need it, you think it's part of who you are, but in truth, it's the very weight slowing you down. Spiritual awakening doesn't begin with angel choirs or blissful serenity. It begins with this confrontation. The haunting realization that the past has been dictating your every step, and that you no longer want to be its prisoner. Letting go doesn't mean erasing memories or pretending nothing ever happened. It doesn't mean you dishonor what you've lived through. It means you stop letting it control you. The past can be a teacher, yes, but it was never meant to be your home. You're not supposed to live there forever, revisiting the same wounds as if they were sacred relics. The real reason letting go feels impossible is because the mind confuses memory with identity. It whispers, "This pain defines you. This mistake is who you are. Without this story, you'll have nothing left." And so you hold on. You keep turning back, gripping the rope tied to yesterday, even as it burns your hands. But what if I told you the exact opposite is true? That who you are has never been your past at all. That the person you're meant to be is waiting for you to drop the rope and finally step forward. Awakening is nothing less than this terrifying, liberating choice to stop letting the ghosts of yesterday decide who you get to become today. Before awakening, most of us honestly believe our identity is stitched together from every wound, every betrayal, every success, and every heartbreak we've experienced. We say things like, "I don't trust easily because of what happened years ago," or "I'm this way because of that childhood trauma." Without realizing it, we wear our past like a name tag, announcing ourselves to the world through pain and stories that no longer serve us. We think we're protecting ourselves by holding on. In reality, we're reinforcing the prison walls. The mind is clever. It convinces us that if we let go of our pain, we'll forget the lesson. But holding on is like gripping a burning coal just to remind yourself not to touch fire again. The burn doesn't teach, it only prolongs the suffering. People who awaken stumble upon a shocking truth. You are not your past. You never were. The past is simply a story your mind repeats to explain who you think you are. But your true self, the one untouched by pain, unchanged by memory, has always been infinitely larger. Once you glimpse even a fraction of that freedom, you can no longer force yourself to shrink back into an old version of you. It feels like removing a mask you've worn for years. At first, it's disorienting. You ask, if I'm not my wounds, not my mistakes, not my achievements, then who am I? That question is frightening, but it is also beautiful. Because in that space of not knowing, you finally have room to create yourself anew, not from trauma, not from conditioning, but from truth. That's why awakened souls no longer cling to the past. Not because they've become careless or forgetful, but because they've tasted a freedom too rich to give up. They understand that yesterday's story, no matter how vivid, is a corpse. And once you've breathed in the fragrance of your true self, you cannot go back to living chained to a memory that no longer exists. The past might once have been a shield, but today it is only a shadow. And shadows have no power once you choose to turn toward the light.
Here's the paradox. Even after you realize you are not your past, the mind refuses to surrender so easily. It clings like a desperate actor who doesn't want the play to end, constantly demanding one more encore. That's why the past keeps creeping back in at night, or why old arguments resurface in your head years later. It's not because the past itself has power, it's because the mind is addicted to replay. The mind replays pain for two reasons. First, it craves certainty. Pain may be uncomfortable, but it's familiar, and familiarity feels safe. So even when a memory hurts, the mind returns to it because it knows how the story ends. Freedom, on the other hand, has no script. It asks you to step into the unknown, and that terrifies the part of you that needs control. Second, the mind replays memories because they justify your current state. If you feel broken, it says, "Of course you're broken, look at what happened." If you're afraid of love, it whispers, "Of course you're afraid, remember the betrayal." The past becomes a shield that protects your fear of change. But here's the secret, that shield is made of smoke. It doesn't actually protect you, it only blinds you from what's possible.
Even good memories can chain you down. How many people cling to a perfect past, telling themselves their best days are already behind them? They romanticize old relationships, old jobs, old versions of themselves, and in doing so, they rob themselves of the present moment. Whether the memory is joyful or painful, it no longer exists. Holding on is like trying to trap wind in a jar. You think you've captured something real, but all you're holding is emptiness. When you begin to awaken, you notice the cost of this endless replay. Every time you relive an old wound, your body reacts as if it's happening again. Your chest tightens, your heart rate spikes, your mood shifts. Science even confirms this. The nervous system doesn't distinguish between a memory and a present threat. So when you allow the past to dominate, you are literally sacrificing your peace for a story that no longer exists. Awakening is the moment you finally see the game for what it is. You notice the loops, you recognize the mind's tricks, and you realize you don't have to keep pressing play. You can put the story down. You can breathe into this moment instead. And in that simple choice, you reclaim the life that was stolen by the ghost of yesterday. If we're honest, the reason most people struggle to let go of the past isn't because they can't. It's because they're afraid of who they'll be without it. Think about it. For years, you've carried your pain, your story, your heartbreak like a name tag. This is who I am. This scar, this betrayal, this loss. And while it hurts, it also gives you an identity. It tells you where you've been. It explains why you are the way you are. Without it, the mind whispers, you'll be nothing. But here's the truth. You are not nothing without your past. You are everything. You are possibility. You are freedom. You are space for life to move through you in new ways. The mind fears that emptiness. It thinks emptiness equals death. But spiritually, emptiness is the doorway to rebirth. That's why people cling to the past like a safety net, even when it's made of pain. Someone who was betrayed says, "I'll never trust again," as if the wound is a shield. Someone who failed says, "I can't try again," as if the memory is protection. But what they don't see is that the shield is also the cage. By holding on to the past, you avoid risk, but you also avoid growth. And yes, even nostalgia can be fear in disguise. Romanticizing old moments keeps you safe because it convinces you the best is behind you. If the best already happened, you don't have to risk stepping into the unknown. You can sit in longing instead of moving forward. But life is not lived in longing. Life is lived in presence. Awakening strips away this illusion. It teaches you that the lesson of the past stays even after the pain dissolves. You don't have to bleed forever just to remember the cut. The memory of betrayal doesn't need to live in your chest to keep you cautious. The wisdom is carried inside you automatically, like a seed planted deep within the soil.
When the wound heals, the lesson remains. The real question is, will you let the seed grow, or will you keep watering the scar? Because the scar will never bloom. It will only remind you of what was. The seed, on the other hand, has the potential to grow into a future you cannot yet imagine. Letting go doesn't erase your past. It honors it by transforming it into wisdom. And once you understand this, the grip begins to loosen. You realize that freedom doesn't mean forgetting. It means finally having the courage to walk forward without dragging a dead weight behind you. Here's one of the hardest truths you'll ever face on the path of awakening. Sometimes you must let go without closure. No apology, no explanation, no perfect ending. The story doesn't always tie itself neatly, and if you wait for that moment before you release, you may end up waiting forever. Think about it. How many people hold on to pain simply because they're waiting for someone else to validate it? They say, "I'll move on" once they admit what they did, once they apologize, once they finally understand. But here's the reality. You don't need their words to heal. You don't need their permission to be free. The rope tying you to the past is not in their hands, it's in yours. Sometimes the closure you want is the closure you must give yourself. Forgiving someone who never asked for it. Accepting that you may never get the answers you thought you needed. Or even harder, forgiving yourself for the things you wish you could undo. Awakening is the moment you realize that freedom does not come from rewriting the past. It comes from releasing your grip on it. And yes, it hurts. Releasing the past often feels like grief. You may cry more than you ever have. You may feel raw, vulnerable, exposed. But this isn't weakness, it's cleansing. It's the soul emptying out the old so there's space for the new. Tears in this sense are not signs of breaking down. They're signs of breaking open. Here's the paradox. Letting go without closure feels unfair to the mind, but it's liberating to the soul. Because closure isn't what actually heals you. Presence does. Stepping fully into this moment, no longer dragging yesterday behind you, no longer rehearsing conversations that will never come. Just being here, now, alive. This is why spiritual people seem to radiate peace after a deep release. It's not because their past disappeared, it's because they stopped visiting it every day like a shrine. They honored it, they learned from it, and then they walked away. And in walking away, they discovered something life-changing. You don't need to solve the past in order to be free from it. You only need to stop clinging to it. When you finally stop gripping the past with white knuckles, something miraculous happens. You begin to see it differently. What once looked like chains now looks like stepping stones. The heartbreak that shattered you becomes the reason you learn to love deeper. The failure that embarrassed you becomes the doorway that redirected your path. Even the betrayal that left scars becomes the fire that taught you resilience. The past doesn't vanish, it transforms. It stops being a prison and starts becoming a teacher. But here's the secret every awakened soul eventually learns. Teachers don't follow you home. They give you the lesson and then you move on. You don't need to live in the classroom forever. You take what you've learned and walk into a bigger life. This is why spiritually awakened people seem lighter. It's not that they've forgotten their past, it's that they've stopped carrying it. They no longer identify with old wounds. They no longer rehearse the same stories of loss, regret, or what if. Instead, they anchor themselves in the only place life truly happens, the present moment. And this shift doesn't just bring peace, it brings power. Because when you're no longer spending your energy reliving yesterday, you suddenly have energy to create today. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What can I build now?" You stop repeating the story of pain and begin writing the story of freedom. Letting go of the past is not about forgetting. It's about remembering who you really are beyond it. You are not your mistakes. You are not your heartbreaks. You are not your scars. You are the awareness that lived through them, the spirit that grew because of them, the consciousness that is still here, unshaken, unbroken, alive. So here's my invitation for you right now. Pause and breathe. Place your hand over your heart and whisper to yourself, I release the past. It is not who I am anymore. And feel the truth of that. Because the moment you let go, even just a little, you begin to taste the freedom that has always been waiting for you. And if these words resonate with you, don't keep them to yourself. Share your story below, because your release may be the key that helps someone else finally set themselves free. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, because this journey doesn't end here. We're only just beginning to explore the freedom that lies beyond the past.